Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to P2G Live. This is the very first live we're having for 2018, and we were just talking about being disruptive in industries, and I think technology became disruptive for us today. So thank you very much for joining us. Apologies for the delay. We did have some technical issues, but we've managed to get around them right now. So welcome to P2G Live. As always, we bring to you a live session where we have anything that can happen. The conversation can take any turn. Because it's live, it's not orchestrated, and we don't have any pre-planned questions. It's going to be a conversation, and hopefully we'll derive some very valuable lessons from here. So tonight even, we have another great guest. We have who does look foreign as well. He's come from another country, the Black Country.
Absolutely. Passport control.
Passport control. Welcome to P2G Live, Ninder Johal. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks for coming down.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for accepting the invitation. Now, Ninder, you've had a long-running relationship with the Pathway Group, generally, haven't you?
Yep.
You've been here.
Fantastic bunch of people. And by the way, the tea's as good as ever. So the quality is very consistent. Very consistent.
Take the credit for that. Thank you very much. Now, in terms of your relationship with the Pathway Group, I mean, you've been here as a judge for the Asian Apprenticeship Awards. You've delivered keynote speeches, but tonight we're going to do something different. We're not going to be talking about, the keynote delivery that you had before, but we're going to talk a bit more about your personal background in terms of your journey in business, your decision-making skills, and why you made certain decisions and how you made certain decisions. But for people who haven't met you before, which I'm sure there'll be loads of around the world at some point, depending on where they're watching from, give us a bit of background about who you are, where you come from, and what sport you here.
So I was born in the UK.
Yeah.
I followed the usual path, which is I went to do my first degree in finance.
Finance, okay.
I then had a dream of becoming an accountant.
Okay.
But 16 interviews later, the accountancy said to me, go and do something else.
Okay.
So I then did an MBA, Masters in Business, and from there I became a management consultant, the kind of thing you would know. I went around the country troubleshooting. So typically you'd go into a business unit, you'd look at their books, open up their balance sheet, cash flow, and if it was hemorrhaging cash, in other words, if you're spending too much cash, then you'd find ways to reducing the cash, and that normally led, unfortunately, to people being told to leave. So, but whilst I was doing that, I had a passion for music, and I was playing for a band called Nachural.
Yeah.
And so we got very popular, and so I was typically going to play a nightclub somewhere. So we'd finish about 2 a.m. I'd then jump in the car, get back to the hotel, wherever the client was. It could be Bradford, it could be London. And then with a couple of hours sleep, I'd go back into work. And obviously, after a while, your eyes become a bit red. Yeah. And so really, it became obvious that something had to go. And of course, when I told my dad that actually I've just quit, you quit to do what? I've set up a record company. You're doing what? Sorry, what does that mean, record company? It means I'm going to be releasing music 2 degrees, and anyway, you can imagine with the conversation. So it was difficult for him and for the family because at social gatherings, I would say, when typical question, what does your son do? Because quite frankly, he couldn't explain what it was. So that's how I got into music. I had a love for music, but the fact that I took it then as a career. And I suppose, and to cut a long story short, the reason why I went into music, not only did I enjoy it, but with the genre, we were playing all around the world. And really, I had the dream, and I thought one day this music could cross into the charts. So fast forward 10 years later, 2004, we did cross into the charts. We went number 5 in the UK, we went number 7 in the US, Jay-Z featured on that. We went 9 number 1s around the world. And we were the biggest ringtone track in Japan. And of course, India then changed its whole music in Bollywood, became a lot more pungrafied.
Yeah.
And so it was a great time, and I suppose my endearing memories coming home, switching on BBC. It was 7:30, top of the pops. I still remember them saying straight in at number 5.
Yeah.
That dream became reality. Wow. So we were the only, and continue to be the only label to have had a number 1
Yeah.
Sorry, a global
Mm.
hit. And of course, then we had the track played in Hollywood and Bollywood, adverts. So it's an interesting time.
What was the title of that track?
Monday at the Vatican.
So a lot of people will probably remember that, even from my generation, and those even now it's still being played on adverts.
On adverts, yeah.
And
So
it's
you
been
see
played.
the Brocco ad with the lizard.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's got a lot.
Yeah, fantastic, excellent. Now, when you made that transition from your professional career into music, not to say that's not professional, but obviously it's a different profession.
Yeah.
I picked up on the fact that you know your parents at the time were probably not as supportive or forthcoming, or maybe didn't understand.
To be honest with you, you can understand the logic behind that. It makes total sense. You know, you're going from a steady salaried job, a job that was quite well esteemed, and I had a couple of degrees to back it up, to then going to, as we call it, an entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
But it was, an entertainment, culturally, entertainment is seen as very flimsy and very fickle and very high risk. So I think it was quite understandable, the reaction that I got. So I think even now when I sit back, I think, crikey, did I
imagine your son saying the same thing to you,
what?
coming from a different career. Yeah. But how did you decide that was going to be the route that you take? Now, here's the question I have: was it driven by anything in particular? What were the motives? Was it financial prosperity? Was it fame? Was it fortune? What was the driver behind that decision?
The driver behind it was twofold. One was that dream of crossing the music. That was what pushed it. And remember, the 10 years were quite tough getting there. And I suppose because I was in music, which was enjoyable, versus the very black and white management consultancy, the one was decidedly enjoyable, traveling around the world and playing, and one I suppose clearly wasn't. And because I had that option, in other words, I had an option to jump out of the drudgery of an everyday balance sheet and profit and loss card and do something quite exciting, I suppose that was the pull. So it was the passion and the pull, and I enjoyed the music, and we enjoyed what went with it.
See, whenever we think of change management, we do all sorts of risk calculations and all that kind of stuff. Did you do anything similar? You didn't. You just that was
impulse.
Boom,
just went for it. And I think I would say to someone now, we only live once.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when that impulse comes, a lot of people dismiss it or postpone it. Sometimes that postponement is permanent. They never do it. And then, when they hit 60, 65, they go back and say, that was the pivotal time. And I took that journey instead. And I'm now where I am now. It's too late. I can now truly say, of course I didn't know at the time that would have a top global mainstream hit. But I can truly say, I've enjoyed it.
Brilliant.
And I can say it's fun.
And that's the most important thing, right?
It's fun. And it's something, that I pass on to my kids, and it's and I suppose I'm proud of the contribution, however small it was, to the development of the bungalow industry. And also you prove to the world that as Asians we're not just good at business, dentistry, medicine, pharmacy, but actually we can also excel in creativity and the creative industries. So it's the whole
package. Yeah, excellent. How much of your commercial background would you say was contributory towards your success in music?
Okay, interesting point. Now, I would say, certainly when I was with the band at Jarnock, and we still perform all around the world. So my role in the Jarnock was primarily, and this is where teamwork and leadership comes in. My job in the Jarnock was playing on double up, but I was in the background. So I was really sorting the management and leadership out. So everybody in the band were in their teens, 16, 17, 18, 19. I was in my mid-20s. So old, but young in today's age. Old. So
You're still young.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I took control of 6 teenagers, 7 teenagers, and we then started to travel the world with 6 or 7 teenagers.
Yeah.
And then keeping them and understanding how each one ticked differently. So a bass player is different from a drummer is different from a keyboard player. Understanding what each individual ticks, because then on stage to make sure they all work as a unit. Because what you can't have is people going off and doing their own thing on stage. If you bring discipline in, but within discipline, and this is where the creativity comes in, you allow some space for creativity. So if you're running a business, think about a business. So business, you've got to make the whole unit work, but within those little bits of the business, you've got to allow creativity. If that creativity comes through and you add those little bits on, then the whole thing works well.
And like project management as well.
So it's understanding talent management. What I didn't know was that I was managing talent.
Okay.
What I did know was that I was leading a group of individuals, but making the whole thing work together, particularly on stage. And what I did know was that I was facilitating an environment where creativity is allowed to flourish. I didn't know that stuff. I just knew I was doing it. And of course, then we had to understand that musicians, by creative, they tend to be disorganized. So you have to try and bring in some elements of time management. So that's your management side that comes in, and the leadership side comes in to make sure they see the longer vision and they bring those talents and you maximize.
Excellent. Now that you had a good run-in within the music industry, and you're still doing it right now, but there was a time from your keynotes that I remember mentioning how a lot of it had changed. Tell us a bit more about that.
Okay, so I've just brought a couple of little things. So here's the first
I
album.
love these props. But, you know,
So here's the first album.
Yeah.
It's on Nachural. I don't know if you can see that.
Anybody remember these cassette players?
So dodgy looking guy in the corner, that's me.
Yeah. Let me see if I can put that into the camera. I don't know how much of that you're going to be able to see, but that'll be enough.
So there you go. So obviously, there we go.
Leave it down.
Go upwards. Okay. That way.
Yeah, maybe on the inside.
That's fine. Just clip it on.
Right. So do you remember these things?
You know what? I have recently purchased a cassette player which plugs into your PC, and then you can listen to. Because I've still got cassettes.
Wow.
I've still got cassettes, and I can't remember what's on them, and I was very curious to know what's on them. So I bought the cassette player, which plugs into your PC, and then you can record off that into an MP3 format. But wow, that's taken some time.
I remember when we first used to sell them. So when I used to walk into a shop and say, "Here's the new album,"
Yeah.
they'd do this. They'd look up and they'd try and see how much the film was there.
Yeah.
The more the film, the better they thought the album was.
Yeah.
So they didn't listen to it. They thought, "Oh, okay, you got enough tracks on there." So
Yeah.
you know that's how we used to sell albums, and then of course this came along.
Yeah.
The whole thing changed, and not only that, but I mean in terms of music production. So we used to save all our music on these. Do you remember these things?
3.5-inch floppies.
Floppies,
Yeah.
all the
I still
music
got some of them as well.
So when we used to go on stage, all the samples were saved on these things. But
Yeah.
now it's all. So of course, then as a music industry, we had to understand the role of these things, and of course, what that meant was that. So in the previous days, so if you were buying this, for example, you had to buy the whole album.
Yeah.
And if you only like track one, that's your problem if you don't like the others. But of course, what this allows you to do is to pick whatever track you want.
Yeah.
You talked about buying a machine to play these things.
Yeah.
Well, you don't need a machine with
You
these.
know,
And if you wanted to buy one of these, you'd have to go into a shop, 9 to 5, Monday to Saturday, Sunday all day shut. Just download these. So, as an industry, we had to change. Listen, I, for one, ignored the change. The music industry from which I was part of, we ignored the change. And we thought the best thing to do was sue everybody that was downloading these tracks for free. And of course, we lost. And of course, business now has to understand that we live in a disruptive world where your model can't be taken for guarantee. And anybody even sitting in Bangladesh tomorrow at the touch of a mouse could wipe you out. And we were almost wiped out.
Yeah. You know, it brings us on to a point where digital media itself in general has played a significant role in the development of business practices. The way we do business now is much different to the way we did it 20 years ago. You know, just 20, even 15 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people embrace technology at a later stage, but rather late than never. And we were talking about print media as well at the same time. How have you noticed businesses, because you work on, well, you spend a lot of time with the local enterprise partnerships in Black Country as well as the
Chambers of Commerce.
How have you noticed the trend changing in businesses adopting technology, and what would your advice be to those who haven't yet fully embraced it?
Okay, so back to my example of ostrich in the sand. When these things came along, we chose to ignore them. And I think business has now got to do a number of things. So they've got to continually look at their model of how they perform. So example, I sat with I was chairing an entrepreneurs panel, and one of the guys on the panel runs a digital platform for selling properties. So I said to him, well, you've disrupted the marketplace. What are you going to do when a competitor comes and disrupts yours? So how are you going to cope with that? Came up with a fantastic answer. He said, my job is to disrupt myself first.
Okay, yeah.
He said, so should be my number one challenger. I should be challenging myself every day and looking to put myself out of business so I can react to that before someone else does. So it's how nimble you are, no ostrich in the sand, how widely do you read, how much do you know what's going on in the world, how often do you meet people that are different to you, not in your sector, you might be able to learn something from there, how often do you access news and information both in print and on digital now. We were speaking earlier. Now I bought this, I subscribed to this. So I should have bought this morning, 6:30. Yeah. I bought it 6:30 on the way here.
Yeah.
So already this print edition is 12 hours out of date.
Probably more because...
But as you correctly said, they must have printed this the day before, or got the information together. So now, 18 hours, 20 hours later, should I even be bothering reading this? Because what's in here is now out of date.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things businesses have now to understand, for example, if you're advertising in a paper like that, it's a one-way communication. You're just channeling your advert out to people and they receive it, but you don't know what they think of it. But with social media, someone now dials in, what a rubbish show.
Yeah.
Everybody in that spectrum will see it.
Yeah.
You'll know about it because now actually you've had a response.
Yeah.
This gives you an opportunity to have a dialogue with them. If someone thinks your advert is useless, you don't know that.
Yeah.
So I think we're now operating in a real world, real-time world where response is immediate and you have to be fast enough, agile enough to reply before you go under siege and other people jump in and give you their 2 pennies worth. So business is faster, it's quicker, it's in real time, it's disruptive, and it forces you now to up your game, because if you don't, you're not going to be around.
On that word disruptive, how do you propose businesses, let's just say we're talking to an audience of small to medium enterprises, people who are SMEs or what do they call them, solopreneurs?
Yeah.
How would you suggest they look at avenues of how to become disruptive?
Disruptive
what
in terms
are the
of their model?
tools? Yeah, what are the tools? Are there tools available to assess where you are in the market, or you know, depending on the industry?
So a couple of things. I think firstly, what you have to do now, probably more than you've ever done. Look, you know this. We would always used to told to like 5-year business plans.
Yeah.
Gone. Gone. You need to be on your toes, not for the next year or the next 2 years. You have to be on your toes today. And you have to ask yourself continually, why? 3 letters. Why should anybody buy from me? Why should anybody even listen to me? And why is my product so important that people will buy?
Okay.
If you can't answer those why questions, you haven't got a business. And I think you have to continually ask every morning when you wake up, why are people still buying my product? Why are people still answering my call? And why do people still want to know me? If you can't answer those questions, my friend, you have no business. So I think that is irrespective of your size. So I bet Comet forgot to ask themselves, why do people buy products off me? I don't think Blockbuster did the same. Why do people? And what they should have said was, well, they used to like buying from us because they were buying physical products.
Yeah.
But of course now, here's another example. We now live in a world where people don't like to own anything. They like to have access to it and then dispose of it. So if you're listening to tracks in the past, you would have this on your shelf and say, look, I own this. Yeah. Now what you do is you dial in, you listen to a track, job done, and you move on to another one. Yeah. You've had access to it, you've rented it for a while, But actually, you're not interested in saying to people, actually, come and check my song collection on my mobile. In the past, you might have said, come and check my album collection.
Yeah.
But now I'm afraid people, it's too fast. People are very quick,
Yeah.
they're very disposable.
Yeah.
It's a fast world we live in. People want to access quickly. People want to move on to the next thing. And listen, I can tell you categorically myself, my attention span.
Yeah, I'm the same. Sorry, what did you just?
But 25 years ago, 30 years ago, we were quite happy to sit and listen to a 3-hour lecture.
Yeah.
We couldn't do that today.
Yeah.
So our attention span, because of the speed of business, the speed of life, how things move, our attention span is that small.
Yeah.
And I think businesses need to reevaluate the reason for their existence. Remember, this is irrespective of size. Comet were huge.
Yeah.
Blockbuster were huge. Our Price were huge. They weren't small businesses. They were big, big businesses. Jessops.
I think social media in general has played a pivotal role in the development and the growth of different types of businesses. And if you look at Uber, they don't own any taxis.
No.
There was a message being circulated some time ago, which had a list of all these businesses, like eBay. They don't actually own any of these products, but they're on Amazon. But they've got, I don't know about Amazon. They maybe have got some of their own
Some
stuff
physical
now,
product, yeah.
But some of these online services, which have disrupted the market by thinking out of the box and being innovative in their approach.
Well, listen, we're living in one right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah. I would not be sitting here.
No,
Yeah.
20 years ago, or 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, you'd be watching, if you wanted to get your message out, you have to pay a fortune to be on some show on Channel 5 for BBC One, BBC Two. We're streaming this live free.
Yeah.
So things have changed. So you could argue we as businesses now are in charge of our own PR. You don't have to now, to a certain extent, go looking around for experts to help you with your PR. You should be able to manage both your digital PR and your print PR. And there's now a space for both. And it's your ability to control the full 360 degrees when it comes to PR and branding that will determine which brands exist and which brands don't.
I guess as long as you have some kind of a strategy with that. But the tools are available. The tools are all there for everybody to use. And we've seen many instances where the underdog has taken on the big corporates on certain services or even knowledge. And they've become very popular because of the tools that they utilize, like YouTube and a number of stars that have been born out of YouTube.
Yeah, but it's not only that, it's speed of thought, agility, moving quick, anticipating change. Anticipate's a big word. Anticipate change, stay in front of the market, be the first mover. You do all these things. Now, those characteristics are typically those that you would see with a small firm, not the larger ones. The smaller firms are the ones that are agile. So what are the bigger firms doing? They're waiting for the small firms to go and then they gobble them up. Okay. Because the bigger firms realize they're never going to be as agile as the small, innovative, fresh firms. And so what you're now getting in Britain particularly is these small firms are being bought up by the bigger firms who haven't got the time, the commitment, or the agility to take the risk.
Excellent. Excellent. Fantastic points there. I just wanted to make note of this. If anyone has any questions during this discussion, do put them into the comment section. We'll have Brad writing them up and we can ask you questions live from Ninder himself. You know what? I was thinking about this whilst you were talking about it, about the change and about generally embracing change and getting instant information, instant gratification,
right.
and everything's at our fingertips, right? We talked about the Financial Times you picked up today, whereas the information you read that now is probably about 24 hours old, right? So
wasting my time reading it now.
Yeah, so there's probably more up-to-date information available. When it comes to some of our, let's just say, the youth and the younger generation, I think Simon Sinek, I think his name is, a really popular guy. He mentioned something about the millennials expecting a lot within a short period of time, and when they don't get it, and then they turn to all sorts of things. How does that, in your opinion, apply with businesses who? I mean, I'm thinking with the young generation, the younger people who are used to that kind of a format. In our days, I'm kind of giving my age away here as well now, but in nowadays, we had to graft hard for a very long time, and we didn't see instant successes or results. We had to probably even fail a number of times, and we had to see all that through before we actually saw that. But we had to just stick at it rather than give up. With the new tools available, the information available, and what's out there, the knowledge available, because there's so much knowledge that's available within your handset, through the internet access. Is that not a positive now for the people who are new to business, or could that be taken as a challenge, a negative?
A couple of things. We can't measure the new generation by our standards.
Of course, yeah.
So we're a different breed to them.
Mm.
They have grown up with IT being part of their DNA. Wasn't part of our DNA. We had to learn it. They now teach us. One. Secondly, their values are different. What I mean by that is they now live in an environment where perhaps in our generation you could stay at one company for your entire life. The new generation can expect to have 14 jobs in a career. Their thinking is different. Do you remember me talking about an asset-based economy?
Mm.
It's no longer an asset-based economy. It's more of an experience-based economy. People want to experience things. They want to live for the day. They want to experience it. They're not interested in filling their shelves full of albums. They'd rather access it and move on. So their behavior is different. Their expectations are different. They live in a faster world. They live in a more mobile world. I remember, listen, you probably remember if anybody had to go to India, it's a big commotion locally. Somebody's going to India, they're catching a flight all the way down there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But now, you book it online and you could be out of the country in the next 3 or 4 hours.
I have friends who've made 12 visits at least a year, and it's
But
it's no longer a novelty.
Absolutely. So I think technology has enabled mobility. Technology has helped with quicker learning. And I think you have to accept that the new generation, by the way, they're smarter than us. They're quicker than us. They assimilate change quicker than us. And they can move very much quicker, and they're much more mobile, and they're much more global. You can't apply our model and just plant it on here. So what we have to do as business people is understanding that our future customers look like them. They don't look like us.
That's a very, very important point, isn't it? Because
they don't look like us.
If we measure or think that our customers are going to be like us, then we could be very much mistaken.
Right.
I guess it depends on the industry as well, but very much so.
So in the music industry, my son's now just finished last year the degree. He's going to have to go and find the music, not me, because I'm now too divorced from what's going on in the dance clubs. He would be able to simulate. So you now have to bring into your business people who look like your consumers today. You then have to plan to bring in people in 5 years' time to match the audience that was in 5 years' time. So the question to ask yourself, are you regenerating your workforce? Are you bringing in people with fresh ideas? More importantly, are you bringing in people who now understand your current customers?
Or maybe your future customers, having foresight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's where you have to anticipate change, anticipate what that change looks like, then ask yourself, is your firm ready to make sure that it not only anticipates change, but plans for it?
Brilliant. You mentioned the LEP earlier on and the Black Country Chamber of Commerce. Tell us a bit more about your roles in that.
Well, the Chamber of Commerce, I was president there for a couple of years, and I got a funny story to tell you. Okay. People may not take it the right way, but I'll tell you the story. So
we'll laugh with you anyway.
Yeah, yes. So anyway, I was selling a lot of albums all around the world, internationally, to everybody, and then of course we had the big hit, and then I thought, well, the likelihood of having another big hit pretty remote. So I'll get into what else can I do while I'm still doing the music. So obviously as a musician I understood lighting, sound, production, the whole event. I had to bring it all together. So I said, well, okay, so I need to look for some customers. And then I realized, actually, despite being born in this country, I didn't know any white people. Okay. Apart from the taxman and the VAT man. So I thought, well, where can I go and find some white people? I'll tell you what, let's go to the Chambers of Commerce. I found a lot of white people. So, but I'm only joking. But that was the perception, and that's when so I ended up doing a reasonably good job at the Chambers of Commerce as a member, and then I became president. And from there, they asked me to join the LEP board. So on the LEP board, and now I sit on the West Midlands Growth Company, and I also go on the West Midlands Combined Authority. So I get a good idea of what's happening around the region. But I tell you what the other thing was. What I found from sitting on these various boards, and I'd say this to anybody, is I learned a lot about things that had nothing to do with me.
Interesting.
If that makes sense. So in other words,
expand on that, please.
so when I would walk into any of those board meetings, for the first time when I first got, I would leave my business turban or my business outside.
Yeah.
I would then walk in, and my agenda was around the region and nothing to do about my business. Now, what did that tell me? That taught me about other people's sectors as they spoke.
Okay.
So you get an idea of what other sectors are doing.
Yeah.
You meet a lot of fantastic people. You meet a lot of gifted people from whom you learn. And interestingly, it gives you an opportunity also to put something back in. So I would say to someone, if you're interested in broadening your mind, remember anticipating change?
Yeah.
You can only anticipate change if you talk to people who are not in your industry, because you as an industry will have what we call groupthink. You'll all think the same way. So my advice to anybody is go and do things that have nothing to do with your job at all.
Brilliant.
Go outside, because when you're outside of your industry, you'll hear what fantastic work other people do from which you can learn and bring back into your own marketplace.
I guess similar to the ethos we have here at the Pathway to Grow with the networking element of it. You walk outside your business, you leave your business at home or wherever it is, and you walk into a room where there are so many other businesses, and you get to know more about them and learn. What's the strapline? Network, learn, and grow. So that's
and I would say actively seek people better than you.
Yeah.
Actively go looking for them.
Yeah.
Because they will then pick you up. So generally, most people I meet are brilliant people that I'm learning from every day. I'm learning from you.
Thank you very much.
So there you go. So I think I think that's a key piece of advice. Now, people say to me, I haven't got time for this networking lark. I just don't have time. I said, why don't you have time? And they said, I've got a family commitment, I've got this commitment. I said, you've just made a decision. I said, what's that? I said, you've decided not to network.
Yes.
Because there's nothing in this world that we can't make a decision upon which we are not in control. We are in control of everything. Our decisions are based on what we want to do. So if you decide you're too busy doing something else, actually you made a decision, you don't want to do it. That's a decision. Because listen, we allocate things. We allocate capital. We allocate human resource, and we allocate time. We are in charge of all of those things. We can decide where to spend our time.
Absolutely, and I think this is very important, because I think a lot of people have misconceptions about networking or what it actually means, and I do a lot of networking by my own admission, and I have to admit, all my marketing budget would go on networking. Because all my work comes through referrals. I don't have any work coming through as a result of putting advertisement out, whether it be through social media or whatever, or print media. Okay, business cards are a different thing. It's a part of networking, though. You might do the odd event or training workshop you want people to know about, but all my business, all my work comes through networking.
People say to me, in today's social media, why do you need to go to any events? Why do you need to go anywhere?
Yeah, and it's a valid point, I suppose, in their minds. It's a good question.
So I would say to you, I would challenge anyone that has landed or given a contract to someone without ever having met them. So what's the likelihood that a stranger approaches you on LinkedIn, offers you a product, and you buy it, particularly if it's expensive, without ever having met them?
Those that are valuable anyway, So I think small tangible things like
baked beans is fine.
Baked beans or stationery is something different.
But how many are you going to do? So ultimately, I think at the right level of business, you have to meet people. So I do the Signature Awards, I do the Nachural Summer Board and the Nachural Entrepreneurship Awards in Leicester. Now, I get 550 people at each event. If social media was that great, then why bother? I think in today's marketplace, there's a number of channels, of which networking is one, social media is another, PI is another. All those channels become a whole, and you just need to decide from allocation resources and finance where you want to spend your money.
Within the networking field and what you do with the LEP, which is the Local Enterprise Partnerships, and the Chamber, and all the work that you do on a social level and in personal interaction, I can't help but think that's all a part of also, which is valuable, personal branding.
Okay, now let me tell you something. I didn't think that at the time.
Yeah.
I was driven by wanting to do something and connect with different people. What I didn't realize is that when I started to post about some of the great things this region has, because I sit on the boards of the LEP, the Chamber, and the West Midlands Growth Company, what I didn't realize is that as I was posting about other things, and it was not about my business, but other things, that immediately starts to attract people. Because they realize you don't spend all your time selling.
Yeah.
So what then starts to happen is people start to follow you because you're telling them stuff that might affect them, not me, might affect them. So if I say, oh, did you know the M6 toll, Junction 10, is going to have this a lot of money thrown at it to make sure that people can get in and out of the Black Country, everybody's interested. I haven't told them anything. I've merely told them. So if you start to feed out and give out information that benefits other people, they immediately start to follow you. You then become an influencer. Then what happens? I didn't know this, but this is what happens. Then they ring you out of the blue and say, can I have a chat with you?
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're selling products, because it's not a question of who I know. It's now become who knows you.
Who knows you? Yeah.
So that's the path. So I would say to people, go and give something back. Park your business outside. Go and learn. Surround yourself with better people. Do something with somebody else. Impart some knowledge that you've gained by sitting in a place that most people can't sit. Impart that knowledge. You'll get a lot of people following you, and then the sale becomes much easier because you've not gone out looking for it.
It's already warm. People already know you. There's known, like, and trust.
I get calls, and I've run out of how many calls I get on a day where people say, can you tell us how we can grow our own personal brand? Oh, can you tell us how we can get into the media?
Yeah.
How can I get newspapers, articles, and interviews, and how can I do all that? So I say to them, it's back to my why question. I say to them, why do you think they should come to you? And if you can't answer that question, when there's other people equally as qualified as you, and why should they come to you, and why do you think there'll be people queuing up to talk to you? Why and what makes you so special? And then they struggle to answer that question. So and then they say, well, where do we go next? I said, well, make yourself valuable, make yourself important, make sure that what you have to say is sensible. Now, people say to me, I've hit a glass ceiling. I can't get anywhere. I'm stuck. Some people say to me, it's the way I look. It's the way I look, I think, puts people off. So I say to people, if you look so radically different from someone else, they say, yes, I do, yes, I do. I said, wonderful. They said, why is that? I said, they'll never forget you.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you've got an ounce of common sense, hopefully you'll say something sensible.
Yeah.
And if you say something sensible, they'll remember you, and take my word for it, they'll ring you.
You know, I was having a similar discussion with somebody relating to sales, and they were telling me how they've done the market research, and they've looked at what the competitors are doing. They've come to the competitor analysis, and they'll find out what the products are, and then how they can do something similar because they're successful. If they're duplicated, why change what they're doing? The reality is, most people who go into self-employment, they all have their own personal reasons before they do that. Not everybody goes into self-employment for the same reasons. They all have different objectives. But it's fascinating how when we see other people, let me say, as from my own example, if I'm a risk management consultant and I see look at another risk management consultant who may be successful, suddenly I'm wanting to be like them just because I perceive them or somebody else perceives them to be successful. But hang on. How do you define success? It's a very personal journey, in my opinion, and we get diverted. Our attention gets diverted. So if I see somebody else doing something else, I'm thinking maybe I should be doing the same. But hang on, will by doing that get me to my own personal goal or further from it? And often it's further from it. We get diverted on the journey.
We should stick to what we do best.
Yeah.
We should be who we are.
Mm.
We're all born with no limitations.
Mm.
We're all born to achieve. Only we place limitations upon ourselves.
Yeah.
So I would say to someone, be yourself. Don't try to copy someone else. Don't try to imitate someone else.
Mm.
Don't try to be someone else. Be yourself, because ultimately people are going to buy you.
What's the point of being you if all you want to do is be like someone else?
So I think that's, I would say that now. Some people say competitor analysis. How important is that? Yeah, you need to know where you are in the spectrum of the competitive environment you live in, and the competitive environment will continue. But I think I would say to people, play to your strengths. If you're good at something, that's what makes you good. And if you're good at something, people will start to follow you, whichever channel you want, and they'll seek you out. If you concentrate all your time trying to eradicate your weaknesses, then you'll never realize how good your strengths are. So I stick to your strengths.
Yeah.
And when a chance comes, obviously bring in resource to get rid of the weakness.
Those strengths often overshadow your weaknesses, don't they?
Somebody said to me, well, actually, it was Roy Richardson who built the Maryhill Centre. And he said, in business, if you have more successes than failures, you're not a winner.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be just a numbers game, can't it? You never know until you try, like this.
You've got to give it a bash, and you know, things can go wrong.
Yeah.
I've been there. As
Well,
you know.
we had hiccups at the beginning today, didn't we? This evening.
So things go wrong, but that shouldn't stop you trying.
No,
So
we work our way around it.
what we could have done was, after 15 minutes, we could have abandoned it and said, let's just go home.
Yeah.
But no, you just keep at it, and that's the entrepreneurial journey you're on.
Exactly.
So you're gonna hit things all the time.
Exactly. I mean, people must ask you at the same time with your work with the lab and the chamber, why would you want to spend? I mean, and you mentioned about the personal branding and finding new people to interact with and learn from different people. But why would somebody spend so much time, is probably another question people have asked you, without getting paid for it?
Okay, let me explain then. Okay, there's a simple reason. As I was growing up, I must have been about 9 or 10, perhaps younger. My father worked in the steel foundries.
Okay.
And health and safety wasn't great then.
Yeah.
And he was involved in an accident.
Yeah.
Which blinded him. So they whizzed him into the hospital.
Wow.
And they spent the next 6 years, 7 years trying to correct his eyesight.
Wow.
So I saw the NHS at close, real close up. So I remember, I think 15 operations. I was in and out seeing it, and I thought, wow, if it wasn't for the NHS, I just called it the hospital. If it wasn't for this hospital, I don't know where my dad would be. So I've never forgotten that. And as I grew older, then I suddenly remembered that actually I was the function of a free educational society. I was free education. I went to university, shows my age. I even got paid to go to university. We had a grant.
Wow.
Yeah. So my university education was paid for. My children have gone to an education system they haven't had to pay for. So when you get to a point in life, you think, well, hold on. I've been taking. Maybe this is now my time to put something back. So that was my initial reason. Also, I wanted to understand what it was like to meet people from different places. But that was the first thrust. And the rest all came together. And then after a while, you get used to going into rooms with total strangers. And I think the other thing I learned, remember this glass ceiling and this, we're not good enough. And so I got used to walking into a room saying to myself, there's multi-millionaires and billionaires in this room. So what? I'm as good as them. I'm as good as them. Why? Because I'm sitting around the same table as them. And you know, interestingly, back to my point about going outside of your discipline. I've seen some highly successful CEOs. You take them out of that industry, they're hopeless.
I've seen that happen.
They're hopeless.
I've seen that happen.
They've not got a single thing to say all afternoon. And that's when you realize actually they haven't grown as people as much as other people. So I would say you only live once. Go out there, meet as many people as you can. Enjoy meeting other people, learn from them, take that knowledge, impart it to other people, and make sure you're always on a learning curve, but you take other people on that learning curve too.
Brilliant. Excellent advice. That's value right there. Just
experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's where the value comes from. I think we're going to be very close to coming to close time, but I just wanted to touch on some of the new initiatives that you've been delving in the last few years.
Okay.
You've got the Nachural Awards and the Signature Awards. Tell us about them.
Okay, now that came from there was a bit of a demand where people wanted to meet up, exchange information, learn. Very important that you learn, but also to network and to grow their businesses. So and to celebrate. So that's where the awards came in. So it was a question of an evening then pans out. You network with people a lot, and hopefully that people higher than you, which is why we encourage that kind of thinking. Then there's a bit of learning because we have a keynote speaker who will obviously impart some kind of knowledge. And then towards the end, we then celebrate the businesses in the region who have excelled in whatever they do. So it's celebrate, it's meet other people, and it's learning. The very sort of remit that you have here. And that's what those events are put together. And why we went into the East Midlands was to try and bring the East and the West together so that more business can be taken across the region. And the plan then is to go to London. So then you have a corridor that enables you to enlarge your business base. In other words, make the cake bigger so that you all get a share of that much bigger cake. And that's the mission we're on now. The mission is to try and make that cake much, much bigger for everybody.
Which one's the next event? When
So the next one is 16th of Feb.
Okay, that's next month then,
Yeah, next month. So it's about 5 and a bit weeks away.
Excited?
And because it's live, I can say you are 48 hours away before the nominations close.
Okay, so if you
so
got a chance to nominate people.
www.natural.co.uk. The categories are there. There's also the one in the summer on the 29th of June. So if you feel you're better equipped to go for that one, you can. But the signature awards are up, and
excellent.
We're going to have about 550 people there. It's normally a good event, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Pathway, as usual, are one of my partners, and they've been supporting me on this journey for a while. But I think if you're going to follow my advice, come and meet these high achievers. Come and mix with them. Come and talk to them. Learn from them. And then let's all celebrate the excellence we have in the region.
Excellent. Fantastic. So if you feel there's somebody worth nominating, even yourself.
Absolutely.
You can nominate yourself.
Well, look. If we're not going to tell anyone how good we are, then has anybody ever gone to know you? And back to right at the outset when we talked about PR. You know, you can't delegate that to someone else. No one can sell your business as good as you. So here's one tool, and there are many various tools available. Use them, utilize them, because I tell you what, people who are less gifted than you, who shout more than you, they will get the business, while you're sitting here being awfully polite and very British.
Stop being British. I told you it was foreign, from a different country. Right, excellent. Do we have any questions, by the way? So let's get some of these questions out there. We have some questions. Thank you very much. The Time Doctor says authenticity is key to success. Yeah, thank you very much, Doc. Thanks
Completely agreed.
Tuning in. Mohammed Nab, my friend from Burton-on-Trent, all the way from Burton-on-Trent. Is there a way to be proactive, and would this then combat the disruptive element?
In terms of proactive, then, my guess is that you understand the industry you're in. You anticipate the changes, so you're proactive in the way you plan and you think. And if you're able to anticipate the future, then make sure your business is structured to be able to involve that kind of structure change so that you're able to meet the future. You have to be proactive. The days of being reactive have gone forever. They're consigned to the history.
Well, we were actually on the first show that we had Saf Razali, the founder of Pathway, and we were talking about being proactive and reactive, and we figured that there's an element of interactive we have to be to get the most out of it. So Ian Preston, thanks for tuning in, Ian. So he's just made a comment saying it's a great question. Why should they want to deal with you? Excellent.
And sorry, let me answer also that question. Is you know, we're all human beings, and you know what we're all interested in? We're interested in a story.
Yeah.
You must have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Because if you have a story to tell, then you have vehicles to tell that story. Then I'll tell you, people have been knocking your door down to hear your story. And you know something? People say to me, I haven't got a story. everybody
Everyone has a story.
has a story.
Yeah.
And then it's your ability to tell that story.
Yeah.
And if you tell that story, I can tell you, everybody will want to know you.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're able to articulate the story. Now, that is linked to why people should buy from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
The reason people want to know you is, have you got a story? So when people say, oh, we're going to hire all these PR companies, the first thing they'll say to you is, so what?
Yes, exactly. Time Doctor again. So that's Mike Gardner. Far too many people make the decision to do or not to do without giving it any conscious thoughts. And Ninder is a top bloke.
I don't know which of those two bits is right, but there we go.
Well, that's followed up by Edwin Ladd's comment. Now, we can always expect this from Edwin. Edwin's asking, "Where's your time? Where's your time?"
I'll tell you why he said that. Edwin, thanks very much. I got castigated by someone who rang me at the blue, and he said, "I've just seen your photo on LinkedIn," and
Yeah.
I was looking at my watch, saying, he said, "Why don't you ever wear a tie?"
Yeah.
So I said, "Why should I wear a tie?"
Yeah.
Interesting, he said.
Yeah.
"You're part of the establishment," he said.
Ah, okay.
So then I had to explain to him why I don't wear a tie.
Yeah.
And now let me explain why I don't wear a tie. So I became vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, Black Country Chamber of Commerce. So I did a focus group, and I said to the focus group, "Tell me what you think of the chamber."
Mhm.
So they said, I was always used to wearing t-shirts and things. So they said, "We think the chamber's stuffy.
Mhm.
We think it's white.
Mm.
We think it's middle-aged.
Mm.
And we think it's stuffy because they always seem to wear suits and ties." So I thought, well, how do I shatter that perception? So I made the decision that unless I really had to, I wouldn't wear a suit, but I certainly wouldn't wear a tie.
Okay.
But what that meant was, so when I would go to a networking event,
Yeah.
I would look like all of them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I wouldn't walk in
Yeah.
with a tie and suit on
Yeah.
while everybody else wasn't.
Yeah.
So I was able to mix with them. Therefore, approachable
Yeah.
becomes the word. Now, if you're able to approach someone,
Mm.
then you're able to talk to them, then you're able to do trade with them. So it was all linked on differentiation and how close can you get to, not the word, your customer.
Yeah.
But you should always follow your customer.
Yeah.
And if the customer thinks X, who are you? Remember the ostrich in the sand?
Yeah.
Or sue the pants off everyone?
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Hence no tie. No tie.
Brilliant. I think that's that. I think we've covered our 40 minutes now. I think we might have run over even 55 minutes. Fantastic. Well, again, apologies from the delay in starting earlier this evening, but I think we have more than made up for it. It's been a fantastic evening here with Ninder. Thanks very much again.
Thank you
once
very much
again.
for your fantastic
Thanks for coming.
questions.
I'm sure you guys really enjoyed having this conversation, our conversation here with Ninder. If you have any more questions, put them in the comment section. I'm sure Ninder will answer them when he sees the thread later this evening or whenever he gets around to it. But that's it for tonight. Thanks once again. We will be back here at the P2G Live studio in the coming months with more exciting guests we've got in the pipeline. So keep your eyes peeled and hopefully we'll catch up soon. Have a good night.